Welcome back to my episode by episode review of Shadow and Bone. We're on to episode 4, which is about halfway through the series, but I want to do a quick recap. Loving the Mal Alina story. I want that to continue more or less as is. The Six of Crows has parts that I'm liking and parts that I'm not liking. It feels like something is not quite right. Maybe the backstories for the Six of Crows just don't have a lot to do. Matthias is just in prison the whole time, and it's not interesting. Honestly, it might have been better if we just didn't introduce Matthias until we were ready to break him out. I think they've made Kaz a little bit darker than maybe he was in the stories, or maybe they worked this arc differently in the stories. That brings me back to the fact that the Six of Crows and the Shadow and Bone story feels super disjointed in this particular season so far. Usually when we're at the Six of Crows part, I'm anxious to get back to the Mal and Alina side because I feel like there's stakes in what's going on with the Six of Crows. It's like,
well, guys, just leave Ketterdam.
is Nikolai older than Alina in the book, or is he just way better trained or way more mature than her? Because while she's having these impulsive outbursts, which all makes sense for a character who was originally written as an angsty 16-year-old teenager, Nikolai, who is also supposedly an angsty second son of the crown, has perfect political timing. He has great intuition. Mal and Nikolai, the men on Alina's side here, have all been excellent stand-up good guys. Just wonderful examples of a quote-unquote traditionally masculine man who is also supportive and a good partner, whether romantically or alliance-based, to a female character. And that's really refreshing because a lot of times in these young adult romances, both the love interests are abusive or bad in a series of ways. The reason I know this is a fantasy novel is because mother-in-law says, I'll keep the engagement celebrations small, extended family only.
Well, extended family is the definition of a large engagement party.
Interesting lore drop here. Anything that comes about as a result of Merizoth is unmutable. So Genya can't remove her own scars because they're Merizoth created. And that means the shadow creatures also can't be removed from the Darkling. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the fold exists as an expression of the Darkling's grief and not a result of Merizoth. I guess I still really don't understand the Merizoth situation in general. Little science is the magic that the Grisha people have, but they can use too much of it, and then it's called Merizoth, or an affront against science, and then it's irreversible.
What? None of that makes any sense.
Oh, Mal is mad about the second army. This is the beginning of Mal's unraveling. I know I should be sad because this right here signals the moment that the Mal and Lena relationship is going to break. And for the rest of the season, I imagine that they're going to have either turmoil or separation because this is a young adult love triangle and we can't be love triangle if one part of the triangle is working so well. But I can't help but think about how sweet it is that this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. He doesn't care about the engagement. He doesn't care that Alina might have to marry or hold hands or kiss someone who's not him. What he cares about is that she's taking on more than she can handle. As an emotional beat that really hits home and feels very authentic and real, and is a wonderful way to escalate a potential love triangle versus some kind of misunderstanding between the two characters that could easily be talked out. Mal and his anti-nationalism. Alina is his flag and his nation, not Ravka. I love it. Mal is a simple dude, but he's so smart on so many levels. The whole cutting off Dagger's finger and using her bones as an amplifier is gross. But like her comments about it, that he is committing heresy, I feel like there is a strong confusion here between religion and right and wrong. So like when we're talking about Matthias's religion and his spirituality giving him comfort in jail, we're really talking about religion. And in fact, his religion, which has him hunting down and killing Grisha, is wrong and unethical. But he still finds comfort, solace, and a calming nature when there's nothing else for him to do through his faith, which like is a little bit opiate of the people and not cool. And here we're with another religion that's also not very well explained with the Grisha, where the small science needs to be kept small because big things create Marsoft, and using amplifiers is a way of gathering Marsoft.
Using any kind of amplifier question mark is heresy. Specifically using other Grisha's bones this way question mark is heresy.
But no one has explained to me why the animal amplifiers would be ethically good or bad, or why they would even be considered religiously a form of heresy. Is it just because they strengthen your powers, which make you more likely to do the Marasoft, which is bad because it has permanent effects and hurts the user? Because that like makes sense, but it also would make sense if we're talking about it from a scientific point of view versus a religious point of view, that we would continue to experiment with animal amplifiers to figure out if there's a way that we could use them without hurting the Grisha involved. Stronger effects and more magic seems like it would be a good thing. Finding a way to make Heartrenders better able to heal, maybe they can cure plagues or do all kinds of other things, or like finding a way to strengthen like a metal crafter's ability to like make things seems like it would make sense. And it seems to me that this religion and this heresy situation is here specifically to stop people from improving their situation.
What does the Darkling want?
His actions up to this point literally make no sense. If he wanted to control Grisha, he could have done that at any time with significantly less bloodshed. He was such a great baddie in season 1, and we didn't know exactly what he wanted or where he was going, but that was okay because we were seeing things mostly from Alina's perspective. So like him having a hidden plan with like a dark reveal made sense. But now it's all out there. He has to have obvious stated goals, and what he's doing should make sense to get there. Maybe this was in the story because a lot of times like the second book in a series is not as good as the first. So this like reeks of the soggy middle. But I mean, this is a TV show, not a book, and we could have fixed this.
Why the heck does Alina want to lead the Second Army the same way that the Darkling / Kerrigan did? That's so fucking stupid.
The very way he went about things was destructive. For her to follow in his example would literally lead them down the same path with just a different figurehead.
What a stupid bitch.
So many questions about Marsoft. I feel like the Darkling didn't have a choice but to use it to survive. From his perspective, he's in the middle of the void. He's got to get out, uses his powers to do whatever he can to survive. And somehow, like, that desperation combined with the stag amplifier that's like part in him and part in Alina gave him the ability to create these shadow beings. Is this just something that you can accidentally do if you're strong enough? Is that what the danger of the amplifiers is they make you powerful enough to accidentally do too much magic and then have this magical backlash? Because that's really when you break it down what's going on, right? Seems like a medical remedy should be possible, or we should find a way to like funnel more magic or energy or whatever into him to like recreate balance. It even seems like potentially, given enough time, he might be able to achieve a new balance, or like maybe he can reabsorb the shadow people. Like this Marsoft thing doesn't make sense to me. It's not well explained. And now they're talking about how the only way to defeat the shadow people is more Marsoft. I thought the goal was not to do that. Is the goal not to do that unless you're desperate? Because if that's the situation, then I feel like the Darkling was following the rules up in the fold when he did his original Marsoft work.
Was the fold created by Mattersoft?
And if that's the situation, then what was the price of it originally on the Darkling? Like, I haven't seen anything or heard anything, I don't think, about what the Darklings suffered as a result of creating the fold. Maybe the cost was all of the Grisha who were with him got turned into Volcra. But, like, if that's the case, sounds like you just need to be near a lot of people when you decide to go, like, experimental psycho mode. Woot! We've got our link into the Six of Crows. Hopefully after this episode, they'll feel more enmeshed and like they make sense being in the same season. I'm beginning to think that Kaz likes to be punched because he just lets himself get beat up like all the time in this show. So emotionally detached from Kaz's revenge plot, especially because we all know this isn't going to help him with his angsty backstory. This is a cool scene. It's going on way too long and it's not going to really change anything. It can't, because my understanding is that the dynamic we're seeing between them right now is the same thing that they had in the Six of Crows books. Like, an emotional beat is great. I'm a sucker for them, but they have to actually have impact and lasting change for them to matter. And I know this one can't. It's just making me very impatient for us to move on with the story. I feel like they missed an opportunity for a really good emotional beat here. Peccaron says,
I'll give you whatever you want, Becker. I'm begging you.
instead of Kaz telling him what he wants is for his brother to be alive, he decides to go for like the macho man power move and say,
Are you begging me?
and force Peccarones onto his knees. Visually is interesting, but like emotionally, it's so much more interesting to continue to drive that nail.
The one thing I want, you can't give me.
So what does the future king want here? Is he just here to rattle Alina? Just asking for a friend? So I get the point of Peccarolan seeing his son before he goes to prison is to let him know that he's been tricked by Kaz and that his son is actually okay. And it's to let the audience know that Kaz wouldn't actually go so far as to bury a child alive and leave him to die. Just rolling the kid up to witness his father's arrest in like a kind of creepy place where it doesn't seem like he has a caretaker nearby is really cruel to the kid. Doesn't make me like Kaz more. It just reinforces my idea that he is not a good person. I know Kaz said it was really important for Nej to be there, but at the same time, he basically wanted her to be at his recital. Why is Kaz being such a pissy baby his girlfriend couldn't make it to his recital when she had a perfectly valid reason to not be there? This whole act Kaz is putting on right now is controlling and manipulative, and for someone like Nej, who has been trapped most of her adult life by some contract or another, I hope she recognizes it and does not put up with this shit.
I can't have a weak link in my crows.
And Ned's the fucking strongest link in this whole goddamn chain. Okay, so we just ripped Vasily in half. So what the fuck was the point of him proposing to Alina and trying to steal her away from Nikolai? That whole scene seemed to imply that there's some sort of political intrigue, and there's just not, because it just died. Waste of my time. As far as I'm concerned, this is like a huge writing mistake. Really, somebody needed to be in the room, pulling things back and honing this in to be about stuff that matters. So what's the Darkling's deal? He reminds me so much of like a 10-year-old kid who doesn't know what he wants, what his goals are, or like what he's feeling at any given time. And it's so weird to see that on not only an adult ass man, but an adult ass man we're expected to believe is hundreds of years old and has lived lifetimes.
They've hated us and hunted us long before the fold existed.
Well, bro, the fold did not help.
I have seen what you truly are, and I've never turned away.
What does that mean?
All I've seen from Alina is that she's a very innocent, naive girl, which is fine. I would 100% champion her idealism, her determination, her strong friendship links. But, like, we have not seen any kind of power from her that's overwhelming. We haven't seen her go to any extremes. People keep talking about the massive amount of power that Alina has or the dark depths she's willing to go to, and it's all just talk. Makes these monologues that they're making Ben Barnes say, like, make no fucking sense. He just sounds like a cray-cray, evil, monologuing dude. Overall, I'm really enjoying the show. I'm liking it. I know this episode probably got a little bit salty, but it's still coming together to be a really good show. Obviously, not all the storytelling choices are working for me right now, but we are only into episode 4, so maybe I'm gonna find out at the end of this season that all of this was necessary. Tell me in those comments down below. Are you watching Shadow and Bone Season 2, and what do you think of it so far? And as always, keep reading. Bye!